Hi everyone, welcome back. What you're seeing here is us setting up for the interviews for that doc that I mentioned a few months ago. Me and my friend Devin there, as you can see in the background, he was pretty helpful for this, just having an extra hand on set to be able to, move things around, check things up, making sure it all looks good. Met him through the art of the documentary, so we both kind of have a passion for this sort of stuff. So it was good to get his ideas in there as well to figure out what was working, what wasn't working, and trying to fix that. Most of this gear that you see here, I actually borrowed from another friend of mine who just has all of it and he doesn't want it going to waste. So he's like, if you ever need it, let me know. I'll be able to lend it out to you so that way you can use it. Because if I'm not using it, then I'd rather have someone else be able to use it. So I was very thankful for that. There are a bunch of different items there that I ended up using, and I think really made the final shot work and be cohesive. So I'm very appreciative of him for allowing me to borrow all this stuff. So going into this, you see us just setting up all the equipment here. We actually found these like bench press stands, and Devin had the idea of using one of my sound blankets for like a backdrop of me, because the talent, Julian in this case, would be talking towards me and we didn't want the sound reflecting as much. I initially had thought of having the sound blanket down on the ground, like underneath him, but in the final frame you would have been able to see that. So it was a good call by him, which another good reason to have someone else around to help you out. The other thing too with borrowing that gear is I told the guy that I was borrowing the gear from, oh yeah, we'll just go over and start setting up all this stuff like an hour and a half before, so the actual scheduled shoot time was. And he was like, I'm thinking you guys should get there a little bit earlier. So I talked with Devin a little bit and told him, if you're able to, let's try and get there like 2 hours or so early. And he was down with that. He was cool. So very appreciative. I went to go pick him up, and we got there with all the gear, unpacked it, and then set it all up as you're seeing here. And it took us quite a bit of time, which I'm glad for that pointer on, because otherwise we would have been scrambling. I would have been more flustered, and just in the moment it would have made things a lot more difficult. Like, we were just finishing up like the final touches as Julian showed up, the subject of the doc. Still working out a few of the kinks, but had him sit in the seat so we could see how things looked and really be able to dial things in a lot more to our specifications of what we wanted, or I guess what I wanted, how I wanted to look in this case. And it was just a good call from that friend. So I appreciate that. And as you see here, I got a boom mic just as like a redundant little audio, so that way, have them laved up, but also boomed. Not sure which one I'm going to be using yet, but just good to have. You don't want to just have one audio source, because if something goes wrong, then that could be pretty bad, So just setting it up and you going right into like a Zoom F3, pretty standard stuff with a standard shotgun mic. But yeah, just kind of building everything out in the moment, so that way we can kind of get a general sense of how everything's going to be looking. Making sure nothing's in frame, because that was one of the first things we did. Set up the cameras. That's why some of the BTS here is a little bit staggered in a sense. You're not seeing as much because we were getting the shot set up first. So I was using the lens I was using for the BTS, and then when I discovered which lens I ended up wanting to be using, I switched the BTS one to the 16-35, which allowed me to get most of these shots. But yeah, with most of that said, I was actually able to borrow this 500D, this Nanlite 500D with a Fresnel lens on it, which was super huge. I knew exactly what I wanted to do here. As you can see, we're kind of outside with it. We have it on a huge light stand, aimed up, pointed down, and the goal is to have the bay door on the left there closed, so the light's coming in, shining through the windows on the bay door, and just making it look like natural sunlight. I think it looked really well. Now, as you'll see later on, the light actually went down, like sunlight, natural light went down. So it wasn't actually light out, but I think the whole scene tied together really well. And I was able to get the effect that I was looking for in it, which was super huge. And I'm very proud of how that ended up looking, but you'll see that later on. Yeah, so I mean, this is Devin, both part of the AOD. We're just kind of going over things here and just the space and kind of making sure the backdrop looks as nice as possible. And then, just setting up other things here like the hair light. And then Devin actually had a great idea here of moving one of these punching bags to be in front of the ring that you'll see later, to kind of give it some more depth and like that lived-in environment of a boxing gym, which was really good and helpful. I know the owner of the gym, he's actually moving out, so most of the stuff that was in here is kind of moved out, which makes it a little bit easier for us to shoot. So he had the ring in there still, and I was like, perfect. This is like the perfect time for us to be able to shoot all of this. Most of it's out, so most of the other equipment is out, so we're able to then just kind of build the space out how we want it to be. So, grabbing some other things from around the gym, putting it in the frame to make it look nice, and still like lived in, like a great environment. And I think we ended up pulling that off. And here you can see us actually using those bench press like stands to put on the sound blanket. Now these are pretty weighted and heavy, so it was actually able to take the blanket really well. I had one like clamp that I was able to use that you see Devin putting on here. And the other side was able to stay up, which was good. I mean, it would have been better if we had another one, but at the time we were just using what we had, So you can really see it being built up here, the set, having the light come in on the lantern. They got the bay doors and everything there. Moving a little closer, making sure everything is staying out of frame. As you can see here, using the phone app to see what the camera on the bottom left there sees, to make sure that nothing's in frame, nothing's like blooming in the top left, which is good. I actually did notice that, but I'll just have to like crop that in. But it was good for being able to do that. And here I'm just checking on the Shinobi that I have, bigger monitor to see that everything's looking good, with the subject there. So here I got the boom arm going, making it pointed actually at the talent, to where the talent would be sitting, making sure it's out of frame, but still like as close as possible. Then, turning off the lights so we can really control the environment, setting up this background light to add a little extra kick to the bottom left of the ring there. And I think it actually turned up looking pretty good. The light you can see is spilling quite a bit, but I closed the barn doors down a little bit here, you can see, so it kind of gets rid of some of that. In the final shot, you can still see some of it though, which I wish I'd put down more, because I really like how it's looking there, but it is what it is for the time that we were spending. It was just kind of like we needed to go because the talent was there. So if this is where I'm talking about, if we'd actually gone there when we planned on, it would have been a lot more difficult to set up, and we would have been more stressed, because here I was kind of feeling it, but we were still like getting Julian set up with mics and everything. So here I am just setting record for everything, making sure everything's good to go. And as you can see by the bay doors on the right there, it's completely night out. There's no light coming in. I also put in a kicker light to add to the ring a little bit, because it was kind of getting lost in the darkness, so adding some extra light to it to make it look like the bay doors were open, filling the subject really, and yeah, just making it seem a lot more motivated, and keeping the accent lights, the hair lights, a little bit more warmer to kind of contrast with that daylight outside balance. As you can kind of see here on Julian, he's being lit by that, and that's where the hair light would be. So here we are just kind of discussing kind of like how he'd be mic'd up, just questions and whatnot, and making him feel comfortable on set, making sure that he's restating the question and whatnot, and that he's got this. It's his life, so he's just essentially telling us everything he wants to tell. And then here we are, just time-lapse of the entire thing. So, I mean, it ended up going really well. We got a lot of good content. I'm going to have to end up cutting most of it, but yeah, I'm super glad that Devin was able to come help out, get some BTS as well. He got some killer photos of me, so he's a pretty good creative that I enjoy working with quite a bit, and I want to do some more projects with him as well. He got this shot, which is pretty cool looking. Just kind of me interviewing Julian while staying quiet, which I respect. It's good making sure the subject is not distracted at all. So all in all, I think this turned out as good as it could have. Honestly, you can kind of see in this shot here the light coming in through the Fresnel from that 500D. I really enjoyed being able to make what I had in my mind come to fruition by lighting it up, setting everything to look a certain way that I wanted to, and being able to execute on that was a very huge part in just enjoying what the final frame looked like and making this as killer as possible for this documentary. So I'm excited with what I was able to do. So here's some of the final frames here. It has an exact look that I'm going for. You got the light spilling in from the bay windows there. You can see that are then going into the middle of the ring, which is exactly what I wanted. When I first set it up, the light was going in and hitting the back wall, so you weren't able to see it at all. It was just like the windows were up. So I like seeing the light hit the actual ring there in the middle, and I wasn't like completely obscured by Julian. One of the only things I wish I could have changed here, as I mentioned earlier, was the light hitting the top from that back accent light lighting up the right side of the ring there. And then also maybe adding in some haze to kind of catch some of those light rays coming in. But for something like this, I think it was like 40 minutes long, and keeping the haze in that spot would not have worked out. So, you get what you get. You can also see the boxing bag there that Devin put in, which is a nice touch, along with some boxing gloves sparsed in throughout. And then you can see there, I'm not sure how much I like this. In the moment, I had put that box in the bottom left there, just because making it, feel a little bit more lived in. I might dim that down a little bit more, like take the highlights off of it, because I really want him to be the main focus, Julian, sorry, to be the main focus here. And that's a little too bright for me. So, I mean, it is what it is at this point. Another thing to note here is on the left-hand side, you can see one of the rails is being lit by the light. So it acts as that bay door is open and kind of motivating the light source onto him as if like that bay door is open. So to me, it doesn't look too sourcey, I would say, but I mean, you can definitely tell like it is being motivated, I think. And then also I like the placement of Julian kind of right on that post there. Because that's the kicker light I was talking about, of having that light hit that white post, because it kind of acts as a silhouette for his hair there to make it stand out a little bit more. Because if that light was off, he'd kind of get lost and muddled a little bit. And then you can see on the right side of his neck there, the kicker light just kind of coming in and hitting him, give him some hair light, some rim, so he's not just totally lost in the darkness. And that's continued through the back as well, with the ring being lit up by the same temperature. And yeah, again, with that light just kind of getting shown a little bit onto the background, which, if I had more time, probably would have been able to avoid that. But all in all, I think this turned out really well. And, I'm excited to see what the final form of this is when we put the interview together, or put the doc together, because, it's a cool moment for Julian, especially. And I'm just glad that I was able to put something like this together and have the help of Devin, another AOD member who is, passionate about crafting these sort of scenes to, fit the environment that it is, especially like he's a boxer. So it really shows that, I feel, at least. Things can be improved on, but for my first real like documentary, I'd say this is pretty solid looking. I mean, I can always get better. I'm nitpicking this already, but as I continue going, I'll get better at this sort of stuff anyway. So really, all in all, it was a good shoot, and we got a lot of good content. So I'm excited to show you guys whenever that comes to a wrap. But yeah, that's what I ended up doing one of these weeks, and no, it was a really good time. I enjoyed it, and I would just want to thank Julian, the subject here, for being down, open to the idea, as well as Devin for helping out, and then Neil, the friend that I borrowed all the gear from, because otherwise I would not have been able to make most of this possible, because I did borrow quite a few stuff from him, which I'm very thankful for. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.